Oh, crap, dude. The White House just dropped a bomb on Mr. Fauci, and I bet you anything it's going to be keeping him up tonight.
Fauci, I don't expect you today to admit that you approved of NIH funding for gain-of-function research in Wuhan, but your repeated denials have worn thin, and a majority of Americans, frankly, don't believe you. Even the NIH now admits that EcoHealth Alliance did perform experiments in Wuhan that created viruses not found in nature that actually did gain in lethality.
Senator, with all due respect, I disagree with so many of the things that you've said. First of all, gain of function is a very nebulous term.
We're aware that you deleted gain of function from the NIH website.
Well, I can get back to that in a moment if we have time. But
so when EcoHealth Alliance took the virus
SHC014
and combined it with WIV1 and caused a recombinant virus that doesn't exist in nature, and it made mice sicker, mice that had humanized cells, you're saying that that's not gain of function research?
According to the framework and guidelines.
So what you're doing is defining away gain of function. No. You're simply saying it doesn't exist because you changed the definition on the NIH website.
You have said that I'm unwilling to take any responsibility for the current pandemic. I have no responsibility for the current pandemic. Number two, you said the overwhelming amount of evidence indicates that's a lab leak. It's much more likely that this was a natural occurrence. Third, you say we've
tested 80,000 animals and no animals have been found with COVID.
Senator Paul, the time is for.
And third, you made a statement just a moment ago that's completely incorrect. Quote, you continue to support research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
You were in committee a month ago and said you still trust the Chinese scientists and you still support the research over there. You said it a month ago in committee.
Senator Paul, I have allowed Dr. Fauci to respond. You've had your time. I'm going to give him.
If he's going to be dishonest, he ought to be challenged.
Senator Paul.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Fauci. Is it frustrating when people don't let you lie to their face? Well, the White House just confirmed everything we've been trying to tell people about the origins of the coof.
I also would just like to point out that several years ago, when I was working in this press shop and President Trump would take to this podium to brief the American people on COVID-19, he suggested that COVID very well may have came from a lab in Wuhan, China. And many members in this very room mocked him for that, said he was spewing conspiracy theories. He was not. We now know that to be the confirmable truth. It took many years for it to come out, but the president was right in this instance again.
No joke, they really did it. White House lab leak report, the origin, the proximal origin of blank, publication which was used repeatedly by public health officials and the media to discredit the lab leak theory, was prompted by Dr. Fauci to push the preferred narrative that the coof originated naturally. I mean, the CIA came out and basically said the same thing a month ago.
The CIA has issued a new assessment that it's more likely that COVID-19 emerged from a lab rather than nature. For years, the agency said it could not conclude whether COVID-19 was man-made or nature-made. Now the agency says it believes the virus emerged from a research lab in China.
And that was after the House committee investigation determined the exact same thing back in December.
House Democrats are pushing back on the committee's final report on how the pandemic started. The Republican-led panel wrapped up its 2-year investigation into the virus this week. Among major findings, Republicans say the virus likely originated from a lab leak in Wuhan, China.
The lab leak is the most likely origin scenario.
The report is more than 500 pages long. It details arguments for the, quote, lab leak theory. It also accuses former top health official Dr. Anthony Fauci of trying to suppress the theory.
And that was after the Department of Energy determined the exact same thing 2 years ago.
Tonight, NBC News learning the Department of Energy has concluded COVID-19 likely came from a lab leak in China. According to two sources with direct knowledge, key lawmakers on the House and Senate Intelligence Committees were recently briefed by top intelligence officials on a classified report.
But the mainstream media would still have you believe it's a conspiracy theory. How long you guys think they can keep this game up?
Let's talk about the White House and the 2024 congressional report specifically saying COVID-19 most likely came from a lab leak in China, but many scientists still lean towards the natural origin. So unpack all of that for us.
So there's no smoking gun really for either theory, but the strongest scientific evidence still points to a natural spillover, most likely at that wet market in Wuhan in China, where live animals that are known to carry coronaviruses were being sold.
You see what they do? You see the way they use framing devices? Look at how close the Wuhan Institute of Virology is from the Huanan Seafood Market, okay? Now consider the fact that even NBC News already admits that before there was ever an outbreak at the Huanan Seafood Market, Wuhan lab researchers fell sick in November of 2019. And see, here's what they're glossing over with these framing devices. Any viral outbreak that originated in the vicinity of this wet market would naturally be carried to the wet market because it's a central hub of human activity, way more than the Institute of Virology is. So it makes sense that even if the Institute of Virology was the origin, the wet market would become the epicenter of an initial outbreak. And they even land the blame squarely on Mr. Fauci himself. There is no way they do this and don't have a whole team of lawyers looking into whether this universal preemptive pardon that was signed with an auto pen, when who knows whether Biden was even aware of what was going on at the time, can be invalidated or bypassed in some way. I mean, the administration itself is accusing him of some major crimes. How is this possible without them looking at charges? All I'm saying is, if I was Fauci, I would be having a hard time sleeping tonight. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. You rock. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one.